Hey guys, I'm back here again with the EC-1500 from E-flite, and I want to catch up on a couple questions that I've received both on YouTube, on the E-flite Hangout on Facebook, as well as from fellow club members and from RC groups. So I thought I would just do a couple little things that I learned on the aircraft and a couple things that I've done to them that kind of respond to some of the questions that I've received. So first of all, where do the graphics come from? That one I get quite a bit. The vast majority of these graphics are all factory installed. The only difference is I have USCG on the wing, and I have some custom numbers and a city name, Grand Haven, of course, living in Coast Guard City, USA. I gave it Air Station Grand Haven decals, the Coast Guard insignia, and then some of the yellow outlines on the doors. Those all came from Cali Graphics. She has a number of graphic packages available for the aircraft already, including more scale-looking windows. I left the stock windows. I thought they're kind of cool. Actually, I think I'm a little bit better than the actual real airplane's windows, but if you want to have a more scale-looking aircraft, Cali can help you put together a graphics package that will do that. But most of the graphics on here, besides the ones I talked about, are all factory. Another one of the questions, prop adapters. Yes, the prop adapters are available from Horizon Hobby. They have a new updated design that came out here probably about a month ago, so November time frame, 2019. So if you have one of the early production models, how do you know the difference? Well, the new ones have a knurled surface that goes on the back of the prop spinner. So if you see that on the back of your prop adapter, that knurled surface, then you'll know right away you have the latest generation adapter. And if you don't, get a hold of E-flite or Horizon Hobby, or you can order right from their website, and you can get the new adapters put on there. So there has been a slight design change. It's covered in one of my other videos, but they are available if you want to do it. And you get the knurled surface there where it meets the back of the spinner plate. That's a great way for you to tell. Painting of the prop tips, that's another one that comes up. I painted mine with just, I masked and used Rust-Oleum 2X white paint, and then I added a red stripe to denote that that's the leading edge of the propeller, so I don't accidentally get them mixed up here or get them in the wrong orientation. So the backside is just white, the leading edge is got the red stripe on it. It just helps me with a visual indicator that that's how that works. All right, some of the other questions, of course, what do you clear coat the airplane with? That one comes up quite a bit. Mine has a coat of Varathane. It's a polyurethane coating. I use the exterior gloss. Exterior paint has, or exterior clear, has UV inhibitors in it that will protect it from yellowing over time. And if your airplane spends a lot of time out at the field and flying it, then you're going to get exposed to sunlight. And to help keep that white really brilliant, I use the exterior color or exterior clear, and that has UV inhibitors in it, so it should keep this surface. It is a little bit glossier than it is from the factory with using the gloss. It's not as shiny as I was hoping it to be, but it's got a nice sheen to it. How do you prep it? Well, I did a number of steps to prep it because I found a lot of mold release on this aircraft that made it very difficult to even get the stickers to stick, even the factory ones. I used a couple drops of Dawn dish soap into a water spray bottle, and then a couple drops of isopropyl alcohol, and I sprayed the aircraft down, and I did just about, I don't know, 2 or 3 wipe downs with that solution to kind of break up the mold release. And then I did a coat of Windex over the top of that as well, just to pull off any residual soap before clear coating it. And I use the brush on. But if you use the brush on polyurethane coating, just to let you know, it does have quite a bit of weight to it. So you're going to want to check your center of gravity after you do it. Mine, I just didn't set the CG until I was done with all the clear coat. But my 5,000 milliamp battery is pushed all the way forward against the steering servo, and I'm using the forwardmost center of gravity position. So just an FYI, don't throw a lot of paint on this thing and then go fly it expecting that the CG is exactly where it was before you put paint on it. There's a lot of surface area on the back here that gets covered up. In fact, you don't realize how much surface area there is on this airplane until you sit out there in the garage with a small paintbrush and paint this entire thing. So I think that covers the clear coating. I don't know if there's any other questions that I can think of right now. Otherwise, like I said, I've flown it only on the 5,000 milliamp 4S battery. It's got plenty of power, but it also cruises very nicely around. I can usually get about 6 to 8 minutes of flight time I don't have a good accurate count yet because when the flights we did have on it, we did a lot of taxi tests in the grass, we did a lot of filming stuff, we kind of screwed around with the airplane and had fun with it. So I don't have a great estimate, but based on what I've seen from the battery usage, 8 minutes of scale flying with a 5,000 milliamp battery should be very possible. I don't see any issues with that. It's kind of, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, how does it fly compared to Real Flight 9? I point that way because that's where my TV is at with it installed. Very similar. I noticed it, and a couple of the guys who flew it at the club noticed the same thing. You had about 10 mile per hour wind in the simulator, and that seems to be pretty accurate to how the airplane flies with about similar wind conditions that the maiden flight was in. It was about 5 to 7 on the maiden at the ground level. So very similar. I mean, if you could fly the airplane in Real Flight 9 and you like flying and you're comfortable flying with it, by all means, you can go into this airplane here. Is it for beginners? Nah, probably not. I wouldn't have this be your first airplane. You could have it be your second airplane if you were really solid with a simulator and a high wing trainer, like maybe the Apprentice, and you're flying that in experience mode and you're really rocking that airplane, not having any issues. Yeah, I think this is probably a decent second airplane. After that, I think you have plenty of skill level to fly it. It's a very easy to fly aircraft. It's very forgiving. A couple of club guys noticed that it does seem to skid in the tail seems to skid just a little bit in the turn, so you might want to just give it a little power up in the turn. But we've only had a handful of flights on this thing between a number of different pilots, so we're still getting used to it. And we had some changing wind conditions and very cold temperatures we were dealing with. So not necessarily the best to give you a full flight review, other than to say it flies great, but we will most certainly be getting more flight time on it. Have I tried the skis yet? No, I have not tried the skis. The snow all melted away and we flew off the landing gear, but I think the snow is coming back, so I'm going to have to get the skis up and going. But otherwise, that's really about it. If you guys have any more questions, please leave them in the comment section, and I'll be sure to try to answer them. I do have a question that's out there from the E-flite Facebook group, and that's to get a measurement on all the deflections and report back on how much or what do you have for the dual rates on the airplane. I will have to get that information. I do not have it present at this time, but I will get those measurements and get those posted. So any other questions, by all means, you guys leave them. Oh, one more. This one comes up, and I learned something new on this one. So what's the airplane based off of? Well, the real one is a C-27J flown by the U.S. Coast Guard. It was supposed to be the replacement for the C-130 for the U.S. Air Force, but the Air Force says, nah, that's not what we really want. Let's kick it over to the Coast Guard. So the Coast Guard actually inherited the Air Force C-27Js. It's redesignated an HC-27J. It's called the Spartan, I believe. And the Coast Guard is in the process of repainting all the aircraft similar to this. But this exact scheme is actually very unique. It is based on a commemorative paint scheme that was done on a C-130, and I believe it was for the 100-year anniversary of Coast Guard aviation, which was just a few years ago. I've seen conflicting reports. Some say it was 50 years of the C-130, others say it's 100 years of aviation. But either way, it's really close to that time period, either one of those two events, and it has this exact scheme on it. So it is a real paint scheme used by the U.S. Coast Guard. I believe it's up in Anchorage. Just doesn't appear on this exact airplane, but it is modeled after a real airplane and a real paint scheme, which for me, being a scale guy, makes me love it even more. So that's it for my Q&A session. Like I said, leave me more questions and I'll be sure to get back with them.